Hi guys, I hope everyone's having a great day today. So I actually did my little documentary on the Barkley Marathon. So I don't know if y'all have heard of it before, but my first impression was, who would have thought a marathon would have come from an assassination? That's right. This marathon, the idea all around it was basically based off of an assassination. I'm a crime junkie. I love knowing about just different like crimes and different murder mysteries and figuring out all those stories. And so as soon as I heard that, my brain was set. I was super set to figure out what this Barkley Marathon was, where it's at, why is it held, who's in it, all the good stuff. And so this Barkley Marathon is actually held in Tennessee every single year. They only postponed it one time in 2020 because of COVID, but what wasn't canceled in 2020, right? And so it's held in Tennessee every single year at Frozen Head State Park. And so, kind of a little bit of history behind the Barkley is there have only been 15 finishers in the last 25 years, which speaks volumes. You know, there's been a long time where no one finished. And so, just kind of the founders for the Barkley, a guy named Gary Cantrell, and his mountain name was Lazarus Lake. And Carl Hinn, the other co-founder, his name was Raw Dog, and that's a pretty cool mountain name if I've ever heard one. It kind of made me giggle when I first heard it. So, kind of the whole thing behind the assassination was Lazarus, one of the founders of the Barkley. He got the idea from the MLK assassination. So, I don't know if y'all know, but James Earl Ray, should have heard that in history. He is the one that did shoot MLK, and James Earl Ray was held in this prison in Tennessee right near that Frozen Head State Park, and he escaped prison and he traveled 8.5 miles away from the prison in 54 hours. So Lazarus heard this story and he thought to himself, well, I could do 100 miles in the time that in 54 hours. You know, he only did 8.5, but I can do pretty much 100. So Lazarus growing up, he was like a track star. He ran a lot, but it's kind of funny because he's never actually participated in the Barkley himself. And so basically, the Barkley itself, it's 5 loops around this mountain, around the Frozen Head State Park mountains. It's 5 loops, 100 miles in 60 hours. So the first 2 loops are on the mountain, go clockwise. Loops 3 and 4 go counterclockwise. And then that 5th loop, you can either choose to go clockwise or counterclockwise on the 5th loop, but not really many people get the 5th loop. So even just to finish 3, I believe, is called a fun run. So it's kind of like a warm up fun run. And usually people don't even finish that. And so it's absolutely wild because I was out of breath doing a 5K and I get out of breath doing anything. And so just doing 100 miles in 60 hours is absolutely bonkers to me. And after each runner completes a loop, they are able to get aid and eat after each loop, but the clock never stops for them. So if they want to take a nap or eat food or rewrap their ankles or feet, the time never stops. And so they can keep going and rest, but it doesn't stop. So it's kind of up to them how they want to handle that. So it takes a lot of planning and preparation in my part. So essentially, each loop of the Barkley, it requires a 12,000 ascent and descent, and basically the elevation change adds up to 120,000, and it's like climbing up and down Mount Everest twice. So my biggest question with this is the Barkley ethical? Do you think the Barkley Marathon is ethical? I think if you're crazy enough to even consider this race, then why not? A little couple things about the race that's neat. So basically, Lazarus, he finds you, he reaches out to you, and then you can apply that way. There's only 40 runners that are accepted every single year, and when runners are accepted, Lazarus sends them like an apology letter, like, I'm so sorry you got accepted to the Barkley. And so after the runners get accepted, they only have to pay that $1.60 application fee. And that's really it. If you have the drive, then you can do it. There have been successful finishers. Like I said earlier, there have been 15 people to finish in the past 25 years. So if you're crazy enough to consider it, then why not? But just a couple of interesting points that I had was whenever each runner goes through the loop, there's some books at every single loop, a total of 11 books. And every runner, they get a number, and they get a new number for every single loop. And so when you're on the loop and you have your number, let's say it's 12, you have to tear out page 12 of every single book and then give them to Lazarus so he knows you just didn't go up a hill, wander around, and then climb back down the mountain. So he knows you actually did the course. And then whenever people tap out or quit, during the Barkley, if they quit after the fun run, after that third loop, or even if they quit after the fourth loop or go up the mountain and climb back down, a person plays taps for every runner who doesn't finish. And then something that I really thought was interesting was the virgin runners. So the people who it's their first time ever doing the Barkley, they have to bring a license plate from their home state. So there's license plates from France, there's license plates all around the country, which is really, really interesting. And so this picture right here is super significant because this is the yellow gate. And so this gate right here signifies basically ending and starting the race. And so I thought it was kind of neat to have this at the very end to basically show that my presentation's done. And every single runner, after they end a loop, they have to touch this yellow gate. So we're touching the yellow gate right now. I hope you found some interesting facts, and I actually really liked learning about this. But yeah, the Barkley was basically founded after the MLK assassination.